Oh, I didn't even realize you loved it.
That's okay.
Thank you.
So number 9 is a review from chapter 1. So it says chapter 1 constructions review on your classwork paper. We're going to start with this because what I realized on chapter 1 test is it's very, very wordy. Okay, so we're going to try to use more words today and write some extra stuff so that way, like, maybe it'll be easier on chapter 2 test. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy a line segment. So from chapter 1, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go off to the side. We're going to make a point. Instead of calling it X prime, like we did it in class the first time, I'm going to call it a different letter. I'm going to call it A, just because I feel like it. After I draw my point, does anybody remember the first step after I draw my point? No. What do? No, we draw a line. So at A, I use the straight edge and I draw a line. On the test, people were confused. They were like, what's a straight edge? A straight edge is you drawing a line like that. You're using the edge of the ruler. Okay, so that's a straight edge. We're drawing a line. Technically, we're drawing a ray, so we put an arrow at the end of it. Now, what do we do? This is what you were trying to say.
Measure it.
Good. We measure it and we put a little tic-tac. Okay, so we go to X. We put our compass on X. And then remember, we're going to move our slider to Y. So I need to see Y through the compass, through the slider. And I'm going to make a little tic-tac. I'm going to make a little arc mark thing. Whoop, I've measured that. What I do to one side, I do to the other side as well. Yes. I think we have this one. Yeah, yeah. Well, the test review is like we're doing that tomorrow. I gave it early, so that way it's people. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna move it over to A, and I'm gonna make the same arc mark over here. And instead of calling this Y prime where it intersects, I'm gonna call this B. So the very last step technically to constructions is to write out a congruency statement. Because I copied the angle, they are the same length. So what I can say is XY is a segment. It is technically congruent to the new segment, which is AB. So for today, we are going to write out our congruency statements when we're making congruent shapes. So do the same thing for number 10. We're going to start with a point. Let's call it W, just because. For what? You type that. So try 10. You're doing W. You draw a ray using the straight edge. I'm measuring the distance from A to B using the compass. I'm going to open the slider to B. And I'm going to make an arc mark where B is at. That's me measuring it with the compass. If it ever says measure with a ruler, you never choose that. We never use a ruler. You always use a compass. So I measured from A to B using a compass. I'm going to slide it over to W. Then in the alphabet, what's after W? X. So we're going to call this X. Technically, it doesn't matter. So in your brain, you don't have to do that. But in your brain, just pick a letter. You just don't want to have the same letter on one image as the other image. So like, since I have AB, I don't want to use A and B on the side. So we're going to say AB is congruent to WX. So try 11 real quick if you haven't already done so. And then we're going to review the last ones that we did for chapter 1.
Is 12 the circle one?
Well, this is the circle one.
But like,
So 11 is kind of extra long, so you might need to like use the space underneath it a little bit. I'm going to call this one E, just because you can use whatever letters you want. It does not matter if our letters technically match. The only thing is because they use C and D, you don't want to use C and D. You want to use different letters. So you're measuring from C to D using the compass. You're making an arc mark. You're measuring the same distance on E to F. And you're going to label it F. It doesn't matter if it's crooked or not. because you're measuring the distance. So because this one is crooked, I drew it crooked on purpose just to confuse your brains. You can make it crooked to match, or you can make it straight. It doesn't matter. As long as it's the same length, it does not matter. And then we're going to write the congruency statement. So what's my congruency statement for these ones? Anyone? No. Too far? No, never use the second one. Maybe. You want to be careful with using the second hole because then you're going to go back and forth. You should just always use the first hole. They should all work with the first hole. Okay, perpendicular bisector. That's also for chapter 1. This is where we do a half circle, and we do a half circle, and where it intersects, we draw a line, okay? So on A, the key to this is you have to open more than half the distance of the line. So I'm not opening all the way to B. I'm making a perpendicular, that's a right angle, bisector, so I'm cutting it in half. Should be quiet. So I'm not opening to B, I'm opening up more than half the distance. I need to open up like here. Like 3/4 of the way. You don't have to actually measure it. You're just opening more than half. So I'm going to make a half circle. Remember, we jump over our line. Don't do that. You're going to break it. And then remember, we flip it over to B and we make the same half circle. Do not move your slider. Your slider is set. You're using that same measure for B. So this is like one butt cheek. We need the other butt cheek. Okay. Q, okay. If your cheeks don't touch, you did it wrong. Your cheeks should touch. Talking about butt cheeks, okay? So where the cheeks touch, we're gonna make a line. Okay? If your cheeks don't touch, you did it wrong. Austin the subs. So we're not gonna write a congruency statement for this one because like it's just drawing a line. Technically, nothing's congruent on here. I mean, this part's congruent, it's like cut in half, but we're just drawing a line. If your cheeks are not long enough, this is what it would look like. Where's the one that I did earlier? Oh, this is what it would look like. Okay, so you want them to touch like that. If they don't touch, this is what they look like. Okay, and then it doesn't work because you can't cross it. You can't intersect it if they don't cross. So they need to be voluptuous. They need to touch. They need to cross. Okay, go number 13, 14. By 13, 14.
Hey, why doesn't it why did you do that?
That's because you have to type. No.
No, oh, I forgot. How do you tighten on? Are you sure? How do you tighten on? I think you can get it.
So yours on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you need to make one bunch. Okay, so what you do, so I'm gonna flip my paper. You stay on number 12. So what we do is we take our compass, we put it on one of the points. So I'm gonna put it over here. So put it on your left point, whatever letter you have. The goal is you need to open up more than half the distance of the line. So you don't want to be past the line. You want to be like more than half. So I go like 3/4 of the way. But you're not measuring anything. You don't want to be under halfway where your cheeks will not touch. Okay. So then we make half of a circle. So we start up high. So move your thing up top. And I'm going to put my pencil in my first hole. And I'm going to make half of a circle. If you go over the line, it's fine. I jump over it, but it's fine. So you made half of a circle. Now we make the same measure on the other side. So put your compass on the other point and make the other cheek. Where your cheeks touch, your cheeks are good. And then right here's a point.
I want to know.
And then right here's a point. And then we connect it with a perpendicular bisector. So it cuts it in half and it's perpendicular. So These are perpendicular. Perpendicular means 90. So this is a 90-degree angle. This is 90. 90 degrees. Your symbol for 90 degrees is an upside down capital T. It's saying it's perpendicular. They're crossing at a right angle. If you haven't done 13, 14, you can do them real quick. 13, 14, same thing. 13, 14, same thing. You're making a perpendicular bisection. 15 is new. 15 is what we're learning today.
And then don't move the thing at all.
If your cheeks don't touch,
Maybe
you didn't make it wide enough.
You just listen. Is that clapping back, please?
By 13, 14. I'll start calling.
I'll let you tell it it's not full of words. Like, from 6 to 5.
Yeah, don't get
Yeah.
over. Then you're gonna get to your EOC and be like, butt cheeks. I know how to do that. Because they show you the pictures, you don't have to draw them. You're like, Miss Hollick is crazy, but I remember it.
What do you mean by and if you're right there right now, I don't know what it's called. No.
Okay, so pause wherever you're at. We're gonna start our notes, which is number 22. So we reviewed chapter 1's instructions. We did copy a segment, and we did perpendicular bisector of a segment. Shh, be quiet. Today we are doing copy an angle and angle bisector, because chapter 1 was on segments, chapter 2 was on angles. So now we're going to do angles. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to construct an angle. So the idea is that you either remember the steps in words or you recognize the pictures. On the EOC, you're not going to have to draw this from scratch. You either need to know the words or you need to know the pictures. Usually on the EOC, they use the pictures. On the tests that I've seen for this, just like chapter 1, they use the words. So the idea is we're starting with an angle. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw a ray. And then we're going to draw an arc going through both rays. And we bring it over and we do the same thing over here. The last step to copy an angle is to measure the opening, how wide the angle is. And then we drag it over and we make the same arc mark over here. So you have your steps you could technically look at. You could also read the words, but I know you guys don't do that. So let's go to number 1. Number 1, first thing we're going to do, we have angle P. We're going to start by making a point off to the side. I'm going to call it angle A, or I'm going to call it A, point A. And first step, I'm going to draw a ray leaving point A and going to the right. Mine was really long. Doesn't really matter. You just want it like the same size or longer. I always try to do it longer than the original. So you have a ray. Step 1, done. Check. We have a point, we have a ray. The next step, we put our compass on point P. And then we are going to open up more than half the distance of our ray at the bottom. Right now it's way too big. I'm going to open up more than half the distance. So like I'm just eyeballing it more than halfway. And I'm going to draw an arc mark that goes through both rays. I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm going to go up. So it intersects both rays. What you do to one side of your picture, you do the same thing on the other side. So I start at the vertex, I open up more than halfway, I draw an arc. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to move my compass to A, and I'm going to use the same arc measure, not moving the slider, and I'm going to draw an arc that goes up. Because you have to think this is the bottom ray, this is the bottom ray. So the other ray is going up, so you need to figure out somewhere up here where it's going to go. Yep, draw the arc. No, we don't just draw our line. No, because we need to figure out exactly how wide it is. You can't just draw a line from here because you might make it like a right angle. You might make it super small. The whole point of this is it has to be exact. So the next step is what everybody forgets. Okay, we need to measure. Ooh, pause. Let's add some points. So this is P. Let's call this. What comes after P now? Q. Is it P-O? Is it PQ? PQ. It's Q. So Q. Technically, it doesn't matter. The only one I ever stay away from is O because it looks like a 0. Okay. PQ, and I'll call this one R. Over here, this intersection right here, where your arc meets your ray, I'm gonna call that B. So this is the point that this is the part that everybody forgets. The next part is to measure the width of QR using the compass. So we're gonna put the compass on R. And I'm moving my slider to Q. So I'm going to close my slider so that way I can figure out what is the distance from here to here. So I'm measuring the opening using a compass. I'm going to use a different color. Okay, so I'm going to make an arc mark. That's me measuring it. I made that arc mark really big.
Wait, you put it on.
I put the compass on R and I opened up to Q. I made an arc mark. Doesn't have to be as big as mine. What I do on one picture, I do on the other picture. So I'm going to slide it to B. And I'm going to make the same arc mark over here. Where it crosses is going to be my final point. Does anybody think they know what I'm going to call this point? C. So you measured the opening. You brought it over. And now technically we need it to be an angle. So the very last step is to connect A to C. So that way I actually have a line. So we're going to write the congruency statement. We're going to say angle QPR is congruent to angle what? Since I said Q first, what letter should go first? C. And then what should go next? A. And then last would be B. So we're going to do the same thing for number 2. Which one? So what you do on one side, you do the other side. So number 2, same thing. Step 1, if you look at step 1, draw a ray. Look at your picture. We're drawing a ray. Okay, so it's Q. So over here, let's use X. Oh, you can take your line. Okay, so we're going to draw a ray. So I make a letter, draw a ray. I'm going to put my compass on Q. And I'm going to open up to more than half the distance. So this is the whole thing. That's too long. So I'm going to go a little bit less. And if this happens to you, which it just happened to her, the reason why is because one ray is longer than the other one. So did this happen to any of you? Okay, so if yours intersected, then you're good. Yeah. If yours did this, it's just because this line is a little bit shorter than this. So I'm just going to extend my line a little bit. So that way it's like the same size as the other one. Boop, boop. Oh, it actually intersects. So if your ray is a little too short, you can always make the ray longer. So I'm going to label these with the points. So we have Q. So I'm going to name this one R. I'm going to name this one S. Whatever arc I use, that little rainbow, I'm using that same measure to make this same arc on the other side. Now, because this is an obtuse angle, make sure you make your rainbow long enough. Okay. Yes. It overlaps.
Mine overlaps.
Like overlaps this thing?
Yeah.
That's fine. Good. Here, I'll make mine overlap. It doesn't matter. It just like you drew your own. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
Is it cute? I didn't just want to. Yeah.
Okay. If it overlaps like this, it's okay. It just means that you put your line really close to this line. And that's because it's obtuse. So it's really obnoxious. It's like massive. So ideally they would not cross, to be honest, but if they do, it's fine. So the next step is the step that everybody forgets. Label this Q or X. This will be Y.
I'm not forgetting.
So the next step is the part that everybody forgets. We need to measure the distance of the rainbow, the arc, okay, because they're not going to say rainbow. We're going to measure the distance of R to S. using the compass. So I'm going to put my compass on R and I'm going to open my slider to S. This is me measuring from R to S. You're putting a little arc mark. What you do on one picture, you do on the other picture. So you're going to drag it over and make the same arc mark over here. It's obtuse.
Yours is way up more. Like,
So did you move your slider?
yeah. Maybe harder for one. This how? Yeah.
So you're going from R and yeah, making a little mouse. Okay, where the arcs intersect, that's X, Y, so this will be Z. What's the very last step? I gotta draw the line. I gotta connect X to Z. And then I'll write the congruency statement. So you have two obtuse angles. The obtuse angles are always awkward, just so you know. So if I say angle, let's say RQS, what letter would I have to say first? Y. Because I said R first, so I would have to say Y first. And then where do I have to go? X, Z. So how you write the first one should be how you write the second one. How do we feel? Bad? You feel bad? Okay, why don't we
What's that letter?
Z? This one? That's a Z. I always put a line through my Z's because sometimes they look like twos. Most math teachers, I think, do that. Okay, let's go to the back. The next one is way easier. This is an angle bisector. Bisector means to cut in half two equal parts. Cutting in half, it's equal. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with is an angle. If you want to read the words, you can read the words. Then we're going to take our compass. We're going to open up more than half the distance. We're going to draw an arc that goes through both sides. Okay, then you have to think about this as an alligator's mouth. We're going to draw a tic-tac in front of his mouth. And then we're going to draw a little tic-tac on the other side in front of his mouth where they intersect, makes a line, and it makes the angle bisector. This one looks ugly, but this one's really easy. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with number one. So number one, we are going to put our compass on Q. I don't like how they already put letters on here. So scribble out these letters. Cross out P, cross out R, because I don't like it. Yeah, it's not because we always make our own letters. So scribble out those letters. So we're going to start at Q. We're going to put our compass on Q. You are going to open up to more than half the distance. And you're going to draw an arc that goes through both sides of your rays. So do not use those points. We're going to make our own points. Where it crosses, we're going to call them A and B, just to throw off your brains. I'm going to call it A, and I'm going to call it B. Why? Because I feel like it. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to call that one A, I'm going to call that one B. Where A and B are at is where I'm moving my compass next. So I made an arc. I'm going to move my compass to B. And now what you have to think about is you are making an arc mark in front of your alligator's mouth. So that way, eventually he will eat this arc mark. So it's not inside his mouth. It's like in front of him. Okay. So like, think about this. Like, I'm going to drop the word. Think about him as like an alligator. Here's his teeth. Eventually, when he walks, he's going to eat something out in front of him, right? So we have to have our arc marks out in front of him so that way you can have a snack along the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our compass on this bottom point. Yeah. Yes. So put your compass on this bottom point, and then we're not moving the slider. we're gonna make an arc mark in front of him. Bloop. Just out in front of him somewhere. You can make it big if you want. Anywhere in front of him. Because once the alligator starts walking, he'll eventually eat it. Okay. Without moving the slider, we are going to put it on A. And we're going to make the same arc mark in front of him. They should hopefully cross paths. Okay, let me go over it again. So I put it on B. And I just make an arc mark in front of him. Just a little swoosh in front. I move it to A. Make the same skirt out in front of him. They should cross paths. So make your arc marks out in front of his mouth. Where they crisscross, that's a point. I'll call it C. And then to construct the angle bisector, all you're doing is connecting C to Q, because it should go smack dab down the middle and split his angle in. So just for picture aspects, if I knew this was 30 degrees, this would also be 30 degrees. The whole thing would be 60. I'm just making it up because they are congruent. They are two congruent angles. So if I said angle AQC is congruent, if I say AQC, what would have to be what are my letters for the next one?
How do you get 30?
I just made it up.
Made it up. CQB.
Sure, we say CQB. Technically, for this one, you could also say BQC. Doesn't matter because their angles are the same. They're congruent. So let's do it again. The first step is we're going to draw an arc that goes through both rays. If yours was a little too big, you can extend your ray. Even mine was like right at the end. So you can always extend your ray just a little bit. Okay, so let's label them. We have K, let's call it C, and we'll call this one C, we'll call this one D, just cause. The next step is to put your compass on C. And since it's an obtuse angle, we're going to move this because kind of like, remember how your cheeks have to touch? If I make my arc mark here, it's going to be like weird and it's not going to be in front of his mouth. So we're going to extend it just a little bit. So just widen it a little bit. This is the only time you move this is if it's an obtuse angle. So that way it's in front of his face. So I make an arc mark. So I put it on C. I moved it a little bit only because it's obtuse. That way it's out in front of his face. I made an arc mark. I put it on D. I make the same arc mark on the other side. It doesn't matter. Where they crisscross in front of his mouth, you're connecting back to the center, which is K, because you're constructing an angle bisector. So it's splitting the angle into two equal parts. So then I could say angle DKE is congruent to angle CKE. Okay. Let's go to the classwork. Let's go to number. Let's go back to number 15. That's where we left off. So you're going to make an angle bisector on number 15 because it says construct an angle bisector of angle A. So exactly what we just did. You're going to draw an arc. That's good. Okay, the angle bisector is drawn on. It should be more than half the distance of the bottom right. What letters do you want to use for our arc? Okay, we'll do BC. The next step is to put the compass on B and make an arc in front of the mouth. Because eventually he's gonna get hungry. Yeah. That's perfect. And yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah. So put a little tic tac in front of his mouth. He's hungry along the way. You make the same arc on C. Put it on C. Make the same arc mark. Where your tic tacs meet, where your crisscrosses, where your arc marks meet. That's a point. We're gonna call it D. And then last step is to connect A to D. That's splitting the angle in half, make it an angle bisector. Bisector means equal pieces, cut in half, congruent, the same. Are we done with number 15?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to number 1. Go to number 1. Number 1 is not an angle bisector. It says construct a copy. So we need to copy it. So what's step 1?
A point.
A point. Let's call this one over here.
A.
No, I'm going to call it
J.
J.
Yeah.
And then over here, I'm going to call this one F. I don't think we use that yet. I'm just making up random stuff. After you draw your point, because this is a copy, so we need to make it over there. So for our copy, we're putting it over there. I'm going to draw a ray leading F. So we did this step. You look at the directions, it tells you. You started with an angle. I made my ray. I labeled it F. What is my next step? Put it back on J. And then make an arc that goes through both rays. So I'm going to make an arc that goes through both rays. I'm going to label the points. Oh. Say this is K. L. When I have the arc, notice on our pictures, you can look at your notes. This is an arc. I'm making the same arc on the other side. What I do to one side, I do the other side. So I made an arc on one picture. I'm going to make the arc on the other picture. So this is F, so this will be G. I need to figure out where H is. I can't just have it floating off in there. So this is the part that's important. What do I have to do next? Not yet, because I can't make a line because I don't know if it should be up top. I don't know if it should be down here. How do I figure out where it should go? Nope, I'm not even purple. We put it on K and we open to L to measure the opening. So we're gonna put it on K. We're gonna open up to L. So that way I can measure the opening. I'm gonna make an arc mark. So that way it's like, I've measured this. I know how far it goes. I'm gonna make that same arc over here. That's how I know where point H will go. Because I'm measuring the distance of the actual angle. I'm measuring the opening using a compass. FGH, yeah, so this is H. Then you can connect H to F. So the hardest part of copying an angle is you are measuring the opening of the angle. Once you're done with one, go to two. Once you're done with two, go to three. So start working through these passwords. Paper number 4 all this time. So you don't have to. You don't want to. You can make it bigger though. So I would call. Chloe, what'd you call your point? So this one's A. And then what'd you put over here? You put Z. Okay. So the first thing is you're gonna make a ray. If you want to make this one crooked so that way it matches, you can make it crooked or you can make it straight. It doesn't matter because either way it's still gonna measure the opening of the angle. So if you want it to match, you can make it crooked or you can make it straight across. It doesn't matter. So let me know if you get stuck.